Hey everyone, Leo with Dreaming Tree, and today we're putting together our cigar gift slash jewelry slash whatever you want to put in it box. And of course, if dad or whoever you're going to give this to is not a fan of cigars, well, we've made those optional. You can, well, in this case, we're pop dotting them on, but you can leave them off and it would still make a very nice masculine box for any occasion. So in front of me here, I've got the main walls for the actual box itself. And as you can see here, I have pre-glued the panels. There's two different sizes. There's the long size and the short size. Now, you'll want to grab these pieces. They have little markers on them, and I'll be happy to fill them in for you so you can see them better on camera. That is a 1. This is a 3. This is the 2, and then the 4 is 4 dashes in the shape of a circle or a square, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to glue those all in order, but you want to get your panel on first. So I'm just going to do 1 here. You're going to get the other 3 on in the same fashion. Just get your glue on the back of the panel here. And we do want to center it on these pieces, leaving a nice even border all the way around. While we're putting the panels on the main structure, one of the long strips you do not want to put on the main structure. You want to put it on the hinge, okay? Because this is what's actually going to be visible. Because again, this piece, the hinge, is actually going to go on the back of the box like so. And we're going to use that to open and close it. Okay, so do not put a strip on. You can see that I have it on both sides. That is incorrect. You want to put it on one side only, and then put the other one on the hinge mechanism here, so that we can put this on like this. Okay. Okay, and then once you have those all in place, you just want to lay them out in numerical order: 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're going to use the little tabs with the actual Roman numeral on them to connect the next section. So we can begin by putting glue on tab number 1. And I'm going to spread that glue out nice and thin all the way to the very edge of the tab. Grab piece number 2, match it up there. You want to essentially be in the center of the little score mark. You don't want to go all the way past it, but you don't want to be too far in front of it. It's almost like you're trying to get it in the center of that little sliver. And then you can take it and fold it on itself, and you'll notice that these tabs here should match up perfectly. Okay, so we're just pressing that down on that seam, and we can open it up and you can see what that looks like. Just make sure that you got that glue all the way out to the edge. You want everything to look nice and crisp. Okay, so this is tab number 2. Tab number 3, we're going to connect this right here in the same manner. Just get our glue on tab number 2. I'm going to spread that glue out nice and thin all the way to the edge. There we go. If you get a little bit on the surface here, just wipe it off real quick. Not going to hurt anything. Get that nice and lined up. Press that down. And then again, you can fold it over onto itself and check your alignment, and then give that a nice squeeze there on the very edge. Okay, there we go. And here we have tab number 3. And I'm going to put my glue on this tab here. There we go, just like that. And get that connected, press that down. Okay, and again, just kind of folding it over onto itself, checking the tabs to make sure they're sitting right on top of each other. You can see the bottom one there, and the top one fits right on top of it. That means that we've got it nice and aligned. Okay, and now we're going to close it up by putting glue on tab number 4. And let's not lose that piece. and getting that connected with section 1. Okay, same process here, just making a box. And in this case, you can actually put this down flat, grab the last piece here, piece number 1, pop that right on there. It should sit nice and flat, and that tells us that we did a really good job lining everything up. Now, one other thing to keep in mind, you notice that there are little B's, not the stinging kind, just the letter B on the bottom. It tells you which part is the bottom. You can't really get it wrong though. If you're following along with me and you've got the tabs connected, you're in good shape. It should automatically default and naturally end up on the bottom. All right, so we're gonna grab these pieces here. You'll notice we've got this. This is the little lip for the top of the container. We've got 2 of these that have a little L on them. It's a liner and for extra reinforcement. And then we have 1 of these rectangles with nothing on it, and that is going to be our bottom. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to anchor this first. So we're going to pick a tab, preferably a long one, and get our glue on this tab. Just get that entire tab covered nicely, maybe a nice thin line of additional glue towards the bottom, and then take your finger and spread that glue out to the very perimeter there, nice and thin. Okay, and then we'll take this piece, and I'm going to get that nice and centered on this tab, and just lay that right on there, and that's going to give us a good start to get the remaining 3 sides in place. I think mine's a little warped. That's okay. There we go, and then just run your fingers along the very edges there. Make sure that's making good contact. Then you can flip it down and press on the rest of the tab from the inside while the bottom's actually resting on your table to get that nice and flat. Okay, now let's take a look at our work here. That seam should be nice and clean, and it is. Okay, we can fold this out of the way temporarily, just for a moment, while we apply glue to the remaining 3 tabs. So we can close this up. Again, I'm going a little bit heavier here on the glue because we've got a lot of real estate and surface area to cover. And I also, like I said, I want to spread that glue out so that those seams look nice and crisp. Just because it's paper doesn't mean it can't look solid and professional. Now that glue is already setting. I'm going to do a little extra glue there on top. Spread that out to the very edge. This side here, already drying up. I'm not sure. I think this glue maybe is just not as wet as my other glue. Okay, so just focus on getting this side lined up. The 2 other sides should just kind of naturally fall into place. And yeah, see, I noticed here that my paper isn't straight. It's a little warped. That's okay. Let me just get these sides in place and I'll show you here. You just flip it over, and if you need to push this wall out a little bit, it's already took hold slightly, but I just lifted it up and then moved it. And that's just a product of, sometimes when you pull a piece of paper off your mat, you end up kind of warping it a little bit or giving it a slight bend because it's, it's kind of almost like training it. When we use a dowel to train something, you can make it kind of curvy. Okay, so, and that's okay. It's all fixable. I'm pushing down on the tabs from the inside now to make sure those are all making good contact. And we'll take a look at the bottom here. If you do have any little areas that maybe are not sitting completely flat, I'll show you a little tip here. Just grab a scrap piece of paper, and mine are not that bad actually, so I probably don't even need to do this, but I have a little scrap piece of paper with a little bit of glue right on the edge, and I'm just going to poke it right in between the 2 layers that maybe aren't sitting completely flat. Wipe off the excess and then press that down to really get it to adhere and give it a more seamless appearance. It's optional. I think as you do this more, and as you become more comfortable putting together paper projects like this, you'll start to notice little things, little imperfections that you may want to fix just because, well, you want to take pride in your work and make it the best you can make it. And those are just little things that you can do. See, now that makes the front look a lot more seamless. It looks nice and crisp. And you can see here, I didn't get enough glue on that little section there. Or if I did, it dried prematurely and just doesn't look nice and flush. So again, scrap piece of paper, and I will just literally tuck it in between these two layers, just like that, and just paint a little extra glue on that. Wipe off any excess, and then press that down and hold it in that little area where it wasn't sitting completely flush. Give it a few seconds, and before you know it, it's gonna look nice and flush there, okay? All right, so there's our container. As I mentioned, we do have 2 liners that are gonna go inside. Let me move these tabs out of the way so we can get our little liners in here. Okay, so that one's gonna go in there. What you wanna do is just put a little bit of glue around the perimeter and pop that in there. Doesn't need that much glue. Don't go too crazy with it. Press that down. Just kind of, if you want to, you can take a little dowel just to get in the corners nice and tight. Okay, and then one more. Got one more little liner here. There we go. Just using my dowel. Okay, so that makes it nice and sturdy, hides all the tabs. And there we go. Okay, so now to make this look nice, we do have a little lip that we're going to assemble here and install. And that's going to go right on here. And just like we did with the bottom, we're going to begin by anchoring it to one side, preferably a longer side. So I'm going to begin by putting glue on just this tab. No need to try to do all 4 at the same time. You'll probably end up not getting it on correctly, making a huge mess possibly. If you can do all 4 at the same time, that's fine. I just prefer to do this because you don't need to worry about lining up all 4 sides. We can focus on just this one side, so get that nice and centered. And again, my wall is, this side is not straight. Something happened to the paper. It got kind of curved a little bit, so I have to kind of push that out a little bit, just like you're making a little pie. Like the crust on a pie. Just kind of grab your 2 fingers and go all the way up and down. And just get that in place. Make sure it's making good contact throughout. You can push that down on your table. Okay. See how that turned out. Looks good. Seam looks pretty darn good too. So now I can flip this out of the way and we'll get glue on the remaining 3 tabs. Now, just from experience during this assembly here, when I did this last time, I was maybe too light on the glue, and by the time I was done, and I went to spread this out to the edge, it was already drying on these 2 sides, so I went a little bit heavier with the glue this time. And you know, that's all gonna be dependent on the age of your glue, your current humidity, how dry or damp it is in your craft room, so many different factors. Okay, but now we can go ahead and close this down. Just line it up with this side first. Make sure it's nice and centered right out to the edge, and then the other 2 sides should just kind of naturally fall into place. Just give them a quick push down. And don't worry too much if you don't get them all 3 sides sitting flush. We can always go in with our little painting technique and clean up any seams that maybe aren't sitting completely flush. But I think I did a pretty good job there. Take a look at it from various angles especially this one, a full side-on angle here just to make sure that everything is sitting nice and flush. It's still not completely dry, so you still have an opportunity to push that down and make more of that glue really grab a hold of this. Okay, that looks good. There we go. Okay, so container is pretty much done here. Fold that down a bit. I'll come back to that later and give it another look. Make sure that it's nice and flush, but that looks great. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put together the actual lid. I'm going to move this off for a second here. And before we actually assemble this, I want to take this panel and put it on. Just because, well, I don't want to warp this. You'll notice that there's a series of little markers on this piece, and it doesn't matter if you do it this way or this way. It's symmetrical, so either way is fine. Just want to make sure that you follow the little markers on here and get it nice and centered. But before we do that, let's put this together. And we've made stuff like this before. Many of you have anyway. I'm going to take this long piece and fold it out of the way so that when I'm working on gluing these walls together, I can actually get my finger in here and squeeze. Okay, so we're going to start there. We're going to begin by putting glue on our little triangles here. I'll start with this one first, just doing some dots, and then I'm going to take that glue and bring it down all the way and line that up with the neighboring wall. And you can see why I moved this long piece out of the way, so I can get my finger in there and give it a squeeze, because if this thing was all the way up here, it'd be tough to get your hand in there. Okay, so just give that a quick squeeze. And you shouldn't be using too much glue here. Just go easy. That way you can kind of keep flowing here without having to wait an extra 30 seconds for a tiny bit of glue to dry. It's not necessary. Okay, so then we're taking this tab, putting it behind this wall here, lining it up nicely, and press and hold. Give that a few seconds. Okay, and then you can move on over here to this side. Just going to move this out of the way for a second. And we'll throw some glue on the next tab. Okay, and bring that up. Line it up, press and hold for just a moment. And it just leaves one more little triangular tab to get in place. I'll go over here. Now before we close this up, I'm going to put my panel on. As I mentioned, I like to kind of work flat whenever possible. Okay, so we're going to tuck this tab behind this wall here, right here. Line it up and press and hold. I'm going to put the panel on this side. Actually, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you want, you can close it and then pick a side. It's all the same. And technically, this might be a better surface to put this panel on because it's going to look cleaner. But I guess either way, it doesn't matter. So with that said, I'm going to just put the panel on real quick. And this panel needs to be centered. This is going to be my top. Okay, so you can see the nice even border all the way around. And this is kind of like a faux leather pattern. Really cool paper, actually. Just making sure that I get my glue all the way out to the perimeter. And again, those little markers there are symmetrical, so it doesn't matter which direction you do it. But there is one more thing to keep in mind here, and I'll mention that here in just a second. Okay, so this is going to be our top. We've committed to that. Now you'll notice that on the side of one of these sides here, the long sides, is a series of little markers, and that's for the little buckle to keep it closed. Okay, so that's going to be the front. This is the top, and now this is the front officially. And that's going to be the back, which actually works out nicely because this is going to be the better looking side anyway. But we still need to close this up. And actually, before we do, we can just glue this down. Since it's nice and flat right now, it'll make it a lot easier. Anything that we can do flat, I'm going to do. Let's get our glue on the back of this. And we'll get this popped into place. And then we can do the rest with it closed so that we don't confuse ourselves. Okay, so look for those markers, nice and centered, and then just drop it right into place. It's a nice contrast there, very bold. Okay. And you know what? Just to make it easier on us, we can put this piece on as well. This just needs to be centered within this vanilla, AC vanilla color that we have here. Yours may be a different color, and that's okay. Just get that centered. This is also a symmetrical piece, so we don't need to worry too much. Okay. And just get that nice and centered. Just like that. Yeah, the rest of it we'll put together after the box is assembled. You can see that I also ran this through an embossing folder just to give it a little extra dimension. Okay, so, but remember, this is your front because we've got the little markers here. All right, let's close this up. We'll do that by applying glue to the remaining 3 tabs. Going a little bit heavier here. Got a lot of area, and it's going to take a few extra seconds. And right now, as it seems with my glue, the few extra seconds are make or break with me getting this on first time around. And that was the perfect consistency of glue there. Okay, so just like we did before, bring this down, line it up with this side first. Get that nice and centered. You might need to kind of push the paper in a little bit to get it lined up. And then this side might need a little nudge as well. And maybe that side. And then just continue to run your fingers along the perimeter just to make sure that everything is sitting nice and flat. That looks great. Don't stop yet though, because sometimes it has a tendency to kind of lift up and pull away. We don't want that. That looks really nice. Okay, seams look great. Now remember, even if you goof up actually, these are just markers anyway. If you happen to mix this up, you could still figure out where the center is on this side. So I'll show you what I mean in a second here. Okay, that looks great actually. So that's gonna be my front, in which case we can put this together. Okay, and we've got this little doily, not doily, what's the word I'm looking for? Scalloped oval. And then we have this piece here. We just need to get that in the center. Just like so. Just eyeball it. I think you'll know where it needs to be. If you're using foil like me, you've got a few extra seconds to commit to it before it really takes hold. There we go. Okay, now on this vanilla color here, we do have a series of markers, and that's just to help us with the positioning of our little silhouette of our man of mystery. You just need to, there's a marker that will contour this little corner here, as well as the neck area. And let's see what else. And there's a contour right here for the back of the neck. Okay, so you'll know that you've got it in the right spot when all of those markers match up with those little sections that I just referenced. Okay, so let's get our glue on Mr. Man of Mystery. And get that in place using those markers. I'm looking at the neck area as well as the hat. And that is spot on right there. Okay. So we've got that, and then he has a little feather in his cap. And where did I just put that? Okay, so don't lose this piece. I had to recut it. Mine probably ended up on the floor upside down, and it's a tiny little piece, so just be very careful. So we do need to get our glue on the back of this. Just a few little dots will do. It's very small, so don't overdo it. You may end up making a mess, and that is going to go right here. You can kind of see the outline of the small little circle there at the base of this element. Okay, so that's what that's going to look like. And then this is going to get glued right onto this section here, and we're going to put that down flat. Okay, so this is where you can make a decision if you want to omit the actual cigar aspect of it. You can do that, and you can skip the next step and use the box for something else. But if you do want to use it as cigar box, we're going to go over the process of putting together the actual cigars themselves. Now just make sure that this is nice and level and straight. Now I'm gluing this down onto an embossed surface, so you may need to maybe just put something on top of it just to weigh it down a little bit if you're doing the same thing. I'm going to grab this little candle and just pop that right on there. I'll put that off to the side while we assemble. Actually, you know, before we do that, we can just take this piece here. This is the little latch that's going to keep it closed, and we've got, in our case, a piece of gold foil as the little panel for the main section, and we're going to glue that right to the center of this. Nice even border all the way around. There we go. Press that down. Okay, put that off to the side for now. So with these cigars, you notice I've got my texture side up, and there are markers on these. On this one here, they're going off to kind of into the left. These are going to the right. Now before you actually glue everything down, my advice would be to kind of find the pieces that you're going to need first and just lay them out so that you know where everything goes. It's a little bit of a puzzle. There's little gaps of black in between each little segment to give the illusion that, well, it's a cigar and it was, you know, wrapped with a tobacco leaf. Okay, so that's what I would do. I would go through, and again, with this one, everything's kind of going to the right as far as the lines go. And on this one, they're all going to the left. So it shouldn't be that difficult to find the necessary pieces, because obviously this one here, with my texture side up, even if I flip it around, it's still not going to fit onto any of these surfaces. So this indicates that this one is actually going to go over here on this side, and then there's one more little piece that goes right there, and we just need to make sure that we get them glued down in the correct spot. And based on my test here, I think it's a good idea to start on the ends. Okay, so this is the piece for this end here, and we want to line that up with the shadow piece as accurately as we possibly can. So take a look and kind of use your finger to feel, just to make sure that it's all nice and lined up. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing with the other side here. I'm going to kind of work from the outside in. Just a few little dots of glue. These are some pretty small pieces. You don't need to put too much on them. And kind of adjust it until you find the correct position for the end caps here. Now the rest of these, you notice that there are some little markers there, and those markers are used to kind of guide you. They may not be exactly spot on, just because, well, because this is a very small, odd-shaped piece, but you can see that that one goes like that. And then this one's gonna go, we're gonna do this one next. Like I said, we're kind of working our way in from the outside. And then this one is gonna snap into the center here. And there are little markers for that one. Okay, so you gotta get the idea there. That's what it's gonna look like. And once we actually get these glued into place, it'll look nice and clean. So just add a few dots. Okay, and pop that into place. Just kind of feel for the curvature there. Just feel the perimeter. Okay, and we'll do this one. And use those little markers to help you with the placement as well. It'll get you into the vicinity. Okay, and then our last one. Actually, I could have probably pushed this one in a little bit more. There we go. And the last one here. And you're just going to repeat that with the other side. Now we've got the little bands that are going to go in the center of this here in just a second. And there we go. Okay, so there's our first one. And then we've got this little gold piece. It's going to go right in the center. Actually, it goes this way, sorry. So let's get that glued into place. And then we have the little cherry on top here, which is our, I think it's a red foil. Yeah, got a red foil element here. Just a few little drops on that. I went a little overboard already. Just wipe your finger off. Okay, and that's just going to go right in the center of this piece here. It just so happens for my staging and for my photo shoot, I found a very similar cigar, actually. So that kind of worked out. All right, anyway, you get the idea here. Again, with the other side, we're going to start off with the end caps and then work our way in with the medium-sized pieces and then the large piece in the center. So go ahead and build your other cigar, and then I'll show you where we place that in just a moment. So we'll be back here in just a second. Actually, might as well just hang out with you. So again, if the cigar thing is not Dad's thing, then by all means, you can omit these and just use it as a gift box for anything else, really. Okay, so on this side, it's the larger piece. Okay, should be pretty thin as far as the line goes. Maybe it's a little bit. I mean, it's just like this up here. Just kind of try to recreate the little gaps that I have there. Whoops. Well, it just fell. It's okay. Okay, and that's going to go right here. Use little guides there. A minute here. There we go. Feel that. Make sure that it's nice and flush with the perimeter, the perimeter of the actual shadow layer, the black layer here. Okay, and then this guy is going to go like this. That's about right. Yeah, actually, you know what? I had it going the wrong way. There we go. If it doesn't seem like it's fitting properly, try it the other way. Okay, and then our last one here is going right in the center, just like that. Okay, and every cigar it's going to be a little bit different, especially if they're hand rolled. So don't worry too much about trying to get it exactly how I have it. As long as you have a little bit of the black lines in the center, that's all we're looking for, just to kind of give it that appearance. Okay, so now we'll put a little bit of glue on our little gold piece here, and that's going to go right in the center, like so. Press that down, and then we'll cap it off with our little red piece here. And there we go. Okay. All right, so we got our 2 cigars, and this guy is all in place. So what we're going to do is, they're just kind of overlapping. Okay, one of them, we're going to put some foam squares on these, and it's going to sit roughly like that. So let's just do that real quick. I'm going to grab my really thin foam squares here, and I think I could probably get away with just using 3 of them. Okay. And you can put these on now, or you can put them on after we get everything kind of hinged together. Shouldn't really matter too much, okay? But again, you want to keep this within the confines of in my case, this is a crawfish color. Keep it within the confines of that, somewhere around there, okay? Just like that. Actually, we want to kind of hide this vanilla oval. Let's see, does that look okay? That should be fine. And then this guy here, I'm going to start him up there. And you know what? I'm going to bring this whole thing in a little bit. Right about there. Find the center point. It should kind of just cross the center point ever so slightly. Same with this one, kind of like that. Okay, so this one, because that other one has 1 layer, we want to kind of pop dot this so it's a little bit higher. So I'm going to do 2 layers, but this one here is only going to need 1 layer. So for this guy here, for these first 2, we're going to double stack these. We'll do 2 layers there, 1 layer at the end, because this is already 1 layer high. And then in the center, we'll do another 2. Come on, up there it goes. Here we go. And pop that right about there. There we go. Okay. All right, so all that's left to do at this point, figure out, yeah, see, and I goofed up. And this is, I'm going to pretend like I did it on purpose. You see these little lines here? These are the lines that you're supposed to use to adhere this guy on the front. Okay, but just looking at it visually, you can cut this down the center and you'll know where to place this. You just want to center that on the front of the box. So if you did it the correct way, you would know exactly where to place it because you've got these little markers here, and you would glue this right in between those markers. Okay, but I didn't do that because I didn't listen to my own instructions, but luckily, here's a cool thing. This is exactly 1 inch. Okay, so here, actually, I'll show you a little trick here. Pardon my head for a second. That's that. And then over here, this is the center point. I can just put a little mark there. So what I did was I lined up, it's so hard to see, sorry, hold on. I lined up those little markers with my 1 inch grid here. So I have the other side here. This is centered. I just put a little mark there. Actually, I put little marks here on the side as well, so I know exactly where it needs to go. Okay, that way it's nice and centered. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on this section here. Just that section. You don't need to put any glue on that. And get that centered. And that's perfect. Okay, just press and hold that down. so the way this is going to work is it's going to sit like that. And now what we need to do is we need to glue this down. Now remember, you don't have that on there. You put it on this piece. I made a couple boo-boos already. But let's get this glued into place first. So I'm going to put glue, actually, you know what? You can put glue on this. Now remember, yours is not going to have the panel. Mine does, because I goofed up. So do as I say, not as I do. This is my first time making this project. I mean, I do have the prototype to reference, and even with that, I still goof up sometimes. But that doesn't mean you have to. I don't actually get very many instructions on this. I mean, Diana does fill me in on a lot of things as far as assembly, but sometimes it's a lot to try to remember. Okay, so we'll get that in place. It's got the panel on it already. Make sure it's making good contact all the way around. Yours is actually going to sit more flush than mine because you don't have that pesky panel underneath raising it up. And that's okay. Mine's still going to look great. No one's going to know. So I'm going to spend some extra time around the perimeter making sure that it's nice and flush all the way around. Okay, just like that, especially here at the top. You can put that down on your surface and press down from the inside. If you want to grab a little dowel, you can do that too. Okay, and that looks spot on. Okay, good. So now, what we're going to do, now just remember to make sure that you have it facing forward here, like so. And we're just going to take and put glue on this entire section here. And go a little bit heavier with the glue here. Spread that out all the way, up and down. Okay, get any off of the surface, off of the side. And then, whoops, I'm just going to take that and pop it right onto the other half of that hinge. And it's more like 1/8 of the hinge. Line it up nicely. And you can actually put that down on your surface and press down. And that should sit nicely. Press that into place. You can probably, this is the best way to do it, to get the maximum force on it. And then you can flip it over and push down from this side as well. And we're actually going to dress this up with this little guy here. I'm going to hot glue that to this section here to really dress it up a tad. Okay, that looks great. It's working well. Now, real quick tip here for the Velcro part of it. Let me just cut one of these in half. Tiny little Velcro dots, perfect for this sort of thing. Keep the box nice and closed. Let me just trim one off. There we go. Okay, so if you got a little Velcro dot, just peel off 1/2 of the backing, and then inside here, put your Velcro right on there. Okay, just like that, and then peel off the other side of the backing. There we go. And then when you close it, it'll go exactly where it needs to go, right there on the box. And then, bam. Okay. So that's that. And that's really all there is for this. Now, only thing left for me to do, and you're going to want to take a look at the final photo on our site. I'm going to get my hot glue gun out, and I'm going to dress this up with this beautiful cord all the way around. We'll hot glue that down, and then probably add a few little rhinestones, or maybe some, I think we're going to go rhinestones with this. Okay, so we're all done here. I, off camera, added some nice little gold pearls in the corners, some nice red rhinestones, and of course this little braid all the way around the actual lid to just give it that little finishing touch. And there you can see the beautiful compartment, nice and roomy. I've got actually a wallet and a tie. I'm gonna see if I can fit them both in here. for my dad. Luckily, I get to start early on all of my crafts for upcoming occasions. So hopefully you do too. Get this one done, get it out of the way. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, take a moment and visit our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. While you're there, hit the little bell so that you get notifications anytime we release a new product, whether it be paid or free. And if you make this or anything from our new bundle, I would love to see it, and so would the rest of our community. So head over to your Facebook, do a search for Dreaming Tree Group, or you can type in this little URL that you see at the bottom of your screen. But anyway, I had a great time. I hope you did as well, and I look forward to crafting with you again.